Hello and welcome to the North America Gaelic Football Podcast, the home of Gaelic football here in North America. I am your host, Gareth McAlinton, along with Limerick's finest, our co-host, Connor Green. Just before we get started, a quick shout out to our sponsors, Masita, who have been the official sponsor of the USGAA since 2017. For those who don't know who Masita are one of Ireland's leading manufacturers of sports kits and teamwear. They are a 100% Irish-owned family business who are passionate and dedicated in supplying their customers with the best quality gear and top-class service. So if your club is interested in getting involved with Masita and their program, feel free to give us a direct message and we'll get you in touch with the right people at Masita for your club's needs. All right, so we got a very special guest today, Mr. Peter Murray, the chairperson of the Northeast Division, our home division here in Massachusetts, but New England as a whole. Peter, how are you?
Good, Gareth. How are you doing? Connor, how are you?
How's it going, Peter?
Congratulations, boys. I think this is a great idea, getting the GAA out there in the greater American community. And it's the first podcast, probably. It's definitely the first in the Northeast. So well done to both of you for setting this up. It's great to see it.
So just to kick us off, Peter, can you walk us through a bit of your GAA journey from where it all began to where you are today?
Yeah, I'm from a half parish in North Galway called Caltra, small 300 houses in the parish. And Caltra would be our football club, Haskell would be our hurling club. Football club is home to the famous Meehan family, and the hurling club is home to the Mannion brothers. My dad was always involved in the GAA. He was treasurer of the Caltra club for 22 years, so it's kind of ingrained in me. My club won the All-Ireland Club final back in 2004, which was a great achievement for a small club, and I had a brother playing in it, another brother played was a sub. So I came to America. I played a little bit with St. Pat's, but I was never a star on the field, so administration was my stronger suit, so I kind of took more towards the administration level of it, and here I am, I was chairman of Galway Hurling for a long number of years before I took chairman of the board, so that's kind of my path to where I am today.
What kind of population would your home club have, Peter? Sounds like some big achievements there for
I think it was
a small
like
number.
360 houses in the parish, so it was a great achievement at the time. They just got a great group of players together at one time, and obviously the Meehans at the time were in their prime and it was owned by them. But there was quite a few sets of brothers on it, and the Kilroys, my own brothers, and it was a great achievement all around.
Was that a senior club or junior?
Yeah, they bet the Gaelta from Kerry in the All-Ireland Club final in 2004. It was their first year to win a county final, Connacht final in the All-Ireland Club all in 1 year. Had never won anything before.
That's phenomenal.
It was a real fairy tale story, to be honest.
I mean, actually, that's kind of a good stop there to kind of go on to the next question then. If you kind of talk about one of your best GAA memories, you know, and that could be whether it's your club at home, that could be here with your club in Boston, or, you know, whatever experience you had.
My best GAA moment was that day in Croke Park. You know, it was all the neighbours, it was the parents of kids that we grew up with, it was nephews and nieces. That was probably, for me, I've been to a lot of All-Irelands. I watched Galway win in 87 and 88. I watched the footballers win in 98 and 2001. I watched Galway lose a lot of All-Irelands. But I would say 2004 was the most special day I ever spent in Croke Park, because, you know, when we came down onto the field afterwards, I ended up getting a photograph with my mother and father, who were, you know, in their late 70s, early 80s at the time. And that was probably the most special moment for me ever in the GAA.
Now, is that picture hung up on your walls at home?
Would you believe? I don't even know where it is, but it's in the memory anyway, Gareth, and that's where it'll always be, you know. So
let's say you walk into our house at home and it's the same thing. Every picture is just me and my two brothers, you know, whether it's with our club, you know, with trophies, or myself and my two brothers, two with the Armagh jerseys on and me with the Down jersey on. So divided home, let's just say that. But, you know, I feel like every club, you know, it's very similar with the GAA homes at home. Every has a family picture of them with their club colours on, or, you know, whether it's county. It's definitely a unique sport where it's like a very family, community oriented sport. And your club is everything, right? Your club is your religion.
Oh, without a doubt. And that those pictures are all over the local pubs. Everyone's house you go into, you're seeing the pictures of that All-Ireland Club final day, and you'll always find a new face that was there or at it in the crowd. So it was a very special occasion. I think there were 728 clubs competed in senior football championship that year. So that's who competed for the All-Ireland Club final. And Caltra were number one. So it's hard to top that at club level.
So I think that's a good. So we'll move on to the next, kind of talk more about the Northeast Division. So can you talk us a little bit about the Northeast Division of the USGAA and how it evolved over time, and maybe even how it evolved, under your spell as chair versus before?
Well, this is a very special year for the Northeast Divisional Board because this is the 100th year anniversary of the first Northeast Divisional Board. The first game that was played here was I believe, in 1889. There was a game played in Boston Common between Galway Football and Kerry. They're the two oldest clubs in the Northeast Divisional Board. But the first board was actually 100 years ago this year. So we're hoping that we can do some kind of a celebration at the end of the year and maybe get the president of the GAA out, or some dignitaries from Ireland, because when you think back to 1923, it's amazing that people had the vision to set up a divisional board to have organised games and referees and umpires, and it was 100 years is a long time, and so it's a very special year for us. I got involved. This is it's my seventh year on the board. It's my fifth year as chairman. I went on as assistant secretary under the great John McDevitt. Was my first introduction to the board, and then I took over as treasurer the next year. And when John Farrell stepped down as chairman, I became the chairman. So that was my route to it. It's my last and final year. But I know there's a lot of good people on our board, so there'll be somebody new next year there, which is a great thing, really, because I think 5 years is long enough in this job because the voices get old. We all have our own clutch of friends or go-to people, whether it's to help out with the fields or umpires or linesmen in a Sunday. And at this stage now, when they see me coming, they're ducking and dodging because they know I'm looking for an umpire or a linesman. And, I do go to the same people all the time because I know who's going to say yes. So we tend to gravitate towards our own people. So next year, there'll be a new man in that seat and there'll be different people that he'll be reaching out to. But the wheels will keep on turning, and that's the most important thing.
Well, I think we can touch a little bit later on the episode about what's next, because this is your final year. So maybe that's something we can touch base on before the end. But, as far as key events in the Northeast, can you tell us about some of the competitions and the events that's going on this year, so people can have a better understanding of what's going on up this way?
We haven't got, we're still in the infancy stages of finalising how many teams we'll have in the different competitions, but we have right now anyway, we're going to have 4 teams in the senior football competition. Hopefully 2 in the senior hurling. Last year we had only 4 I think 4 in the intermediate. This year it's looking like we're going to have 6, possibly more. Like I said, we're still working out the junior B football. Right, as of right now, it's 2, but they may move up to the intermediate. Some of them may, So one of the things we do have this year is we have 5 ladies junior teams. We have 2 ladies football teams, but we have at intermediate level, but we're going to have 5 ladies junior teams. So we have 3 new ladies teams this year, which is great to see because the ladies has been slipping a little bit over the last number of years due to immigration, obviously, and players not coming out. But this year we have St. Brendan's after putting in a junior team, Hartford and Providence, 2, and we'll also have Boston Shamrocks. And so I think it's great to see it,
And that's all going to be at one level of junior? Is that going to be split up? Or
we'll have one level.
We'll
have one level. Sean Oakes is also a junior team. I knew it there. There's 5 in it, which is our development. There'll be 5 teams in it, so we'll play one round. Possibly, I think the top team will go to the final, and 2 and 3 will play a semi-final. So there'll be 2 teams knocked out. So we have 24 clubs currently in Boston. It has grown, even since I took over as chairman, I think we've a couple of new teams. We have 3 this year, and we have the Sean Olds team also. So it's been, we're constantly developing, and we have, hopefully it'll continue to do that. Probably our weakest competition right now, not because of the quality, but because of the number of teams will be senior hurling. So it would be nice to see some senior hurling teams, maybe Worcester there coming up to senior eventually, or New Hampshire Wolves, they're both in the junior B and they're making a lot of progress. But we do need senior hurling in Boston, and with 2 teams, it's the best of 5. Competition could be over in 3. It might go to 4, which it did last year, and if it could go to 5. But you just don't know from year to year.
Well, that's a good point there. You talked about 20 clubs.
24.
That's a testament. Yeah, it's a testament that the work's being put in the GAA community, not just in the Boston area, but in New England as a whole. Obviously we follow Hartford, Providence, New Hampshire, Portland, all them teams very well. They're in our division, but we also are very close with them guys as well, as far as setting up challenge games. And when they announced Providence and Hartford were putting a ladies team, they really are stepping up on the recruiting and really growing the game and growing that community, because it's about making it a whole community where everybody's involved, where there's the males, the females, the junior teams. I even seen Hartford running youth clinics there all winter long. So a real testament to them clubs that keep that going. And then obviously Boston, they're obviously going to continue to grow, and it's great to see St. Brendan's and the Shamrocks putting another team in. Testament to the clubs there in Boston. So we're on our 100th year for the Northeast. Can you talk about some of the most successful clubs in the Northeast and just, how they have evolved over the years as well?
Well, what do you base success on? For me, I think success is the longevity of a club. And, I just mentioned earlier that Galway football and Galway and Kerry football played their first game in the Boston Common in 1889. I think both of those clubs deserve fantastic credit. It's 130 something odd years later, and they're still both out there playing. Galway are still a senior football club, and the Kerry are still they're playing at intermediate level. But that alone is success. They're 2 very successful clubs that can keep it going for that number of years. Galway Hurling was formed in 1909, another very successful club. We've had so many clubs that have come and gone over the last, even since I've been here 34 years. This is my 35th year. And we've lost a lot of clubs in those 35 years, but we've gained some new clubs. And some of those clubs are quite, Donegal have probably been the most successful over the last 5 or 6 years. They were going for 3, I think maybe 4 in a row this year when the McInnesby's got on top of them. But, a club like that are pushing up the level of competition for every other club around them. And you're a former Max man, and you know that Max are a very competitive club. Gales are very competitive. All these clubs are always knocking on the door, and they're always looking to win senior championships. So, but like I said, the longevity for me is what I like to see. We win and we're going to lose. You'll always lose more when you're playing the game than you're going to win. But can you sustain it? Can you keep going? Can you keep coming back from those losses? And can you, say, okay, next year might be our year? I'll always remember the Christophers when they won their first Boston Championship with 7 American-born players. That, to me, was a great story. That was success. It was their first, but it was 7 American-born. Nobody gave them a shot. Lord of Mercy and Donny Keneally, he took so many Hammerdens out in Delboy, 20, 30 points, but he came back year after year after year. He finally got a group of players. He finally got to the top of the mountain. That's very special when you do that. So there are a lot of great success stories here. McInnesby's is a relatively new club. Donegal is actually not that, they're pretty, 30 years. Any of these clubs that are only 20, 30 years, 40 years, they're still, to me, they're relatively new clubs. So, and I think there's a nice spread of wealth here. You don't see the same teams dominating it year after year, which you don't want to. Donegal did for the last, for those 3 years until McInnesby's came and won it this year, and it's good for the football. It's good for the town. It's good to see it changing and going from that cup resting in a different home the following winter. You don't want to see the same club winning it over and over again. So,
who's seeing a lot of what's going on behind the scenes in clubs and all that, what advice would you have, say, for a club? What are the strong clubs in Boston doing right to keep these teams getting out on the pitch every year, at a high level?
They obviously, number one, they're probably working harder. But the one advice I'd give to every club is don't ever turn anyone away. He doesn't have to be a good hurler or footballer. He could be a fantastic administrator. He could be the best guy you have behind the scene. Take everybody. If somebody comes out and they need a little bit of help getting a bed or an apartment, look after them. He could be the next guy that'll be he could be your next chairman, your next secretary. He could be the person that'll keep that club alive. And all the successful clubs are working hard. When they
I often stress that to the boys there. Like we, for us now in Worcester, like being mostly Americans and all that. We can't afford to turn away anyone, and you never know. Someone might not be great, but they might have a friend. It's all about just broadening your net. Really,
he might have a friend, or he might be able to sell tickets for you. He might.
Could be a
good MC at a banquet. You don't know, but if you let him go, you're not going to find out. The GAA is about inclusion. It's about welcoming everybody. Doesn't matter what race, what nationality, who they are. I say they're all welcome. That's how the good clubs are successful. And they identify these workers and they give them a job. And when you see somebody slipping away, give them a job. Bring them back in. Because we haven't had a lot of immigration here in the last 20 years, which has it's wonderful to see that there are still 24 clubs here and that clubs still are as strong as they are. I know we changed the rules. I remember in 1988 when I came out here, it was 10 home base and 3 away in senior football. That went all the way down, I think, to maybe 5 home base and 8 away. And now it's back, I think, to 7. 7 and 6 now. But it keeps changing. We keep changing the landscape as we get players. The American-born players are coming into it now. And there's 2 American-born on every team, which I think is fantastic to see. And hopefully we'll push that to 3 and 4 so that we get more of them playing. But we can never forget about the immigrants either, the people that are coming out that want to play our games. We always have to. We got to include everybody, whether they're homegrown or they're sanctioned players or they're resident Irish-born players. We got to try to include them all. And that's what makes for good competition.
I 100% agree with that.
Hard work is the key to success in any business, and Gaelic games are different.
So, obviously, we are getting to that stage now where more American-borns are, has to be on the field. What are the clubs in Boston and some of the greater Boston teams doing to recruit more American lads? Are they going through the schools, or are they going just, through conversations? What are they doing to attract these new players in?
Well, I know as part of my own club, how you're kind of some clubs can be fortunate. A parent plays for Kerry, his son is going to play for Kerry. A parent plays for McInnesby's, the son is going to gravitate towards there. So when and then the friends will follow them. That's how it works. I could never see it going any other way. People say, "Oh, maybe you should have a draft and take these American kids." You can't do that, because if I had a son or a daughter tomorrow morning that wanted to play, I'd want them to play with the club that I'm involved in. That's just the way it is. That's the only way it makes sense to me. So, I don't know. I think, you have a lot of the generation behind, we'll say, that are a little bit younger than me, that have done some great work at the ISYL, St. Brendan's and Trinity Milton, that have got their kids playing, and they have encouraged their kids to bring their friends along. And I think we need to do more of that to get the Americans included, because Gaelic football is not so different to basketball and soccer when you combine the two. So it's not hard to teach an American kid how to play both sports. And when an American kid leaves college at 21 or 22, he might even have to be getting a scholarship to D1 soccer or D1 basketball or whatever. But when he leaves at 22, there's no sporting outlet for him unless it's a club league or whatever. So the GAA is a great place to bring them at that age. They're still in their prime. Hurling is a little different. It's so hard it's hard to teach it. My sister came out from Ireland last Friday, and her son wouldn't leave Ireland without his hurdle. Had to go in the suitcase. So that dedication is what makes players brilliant. That little 24-inch hurdle goes everywhere with him. He brings it to bed. He never takes it out of his hand.
That's the tough part about hurling over here, isn't it? You know, that's what you're up against as an American player picking it up for the first time. You know, someone who's literally just carried it everywhere with them through
They
childhood.
don't
Like,
go
you
anywhere
know,
without it. So
it's an awful lot to ask of a fella to be better than
it's
someone.
it's
You know,
it's very it's going to be very hard, Garrett, to ever break into the schools here because there are so many other sports, and all these other sports you'll break into it. Hopefully, at some level, but these other schools offer scholarships for whether it's lacrosse, field hockey, baseball, basketball. All the sports. There's judo, there's wrestling, there's 20 school sports, there's track, and they all offer scholarships. So a $15,000-$20,000 scholarship to some parents is a huge, bonus. So it's if the kid is talented, it's hard to attract them to our sport. I don't know. Maybe we should have some scholarship funding that we offer to these players and say, look, if you can, if we see that they're good players, maybe clubs should say, right, we'll give that player $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 towards his scholarship, towards his college. It might help them out. It's not a lot of money, but it's better than nothing. So.
Do you think that's something that should be explored going forward?
Yes, I do think it should be something we should think about. We raise an awful lot of money to bring out players from Ireland. Maybe we should raise some money to create some scholarships for them here that might encourage more of them to play our games. So the GAA was always, since I've come here, we've always been able to raise money. And there's a lot of money raised in this town for our sport every year. So maybe we should consider, offering scholarships to these, you have the St. Brendan's Youth, like I said, Trinity, Milton and ISYL. There's kids coming through there. And if we want to keep them, well, you got to look after them somehow.
It's funny, last St. Paddy's Day, myself, Connor and a couple of lads went out to a school in Nipmuc, private school, boys and girls, and we went out and did a Gaelic football hurling clinic. Not one of them had ever heard of Gaelic football before or hurling, and they absolutely loved it. Loved it. How can I follow you guys? Where can I get involved with this? I almost do think there is a gap in that, where yes, there's people will go to these sports, but some of these schools are like, you've got elite sports schools where you might have 100 people trying out for soccer, 100 people trying out for football, 100 people or 50 people trying out for lacrosse. All right, well, what about the other, 20 people that doesn't make it? We have something for them, and, we have funding where we can get them equipment and all that stuff. So I do think there is a gap there that could be explored, along with a scholarship. But it's a time, right? It's very time consuming. There's a lot of groundwork that would need to be done to really get it off the ground. There's a lot of, labor that has to be involved with it. It almost just needs somebody to take it by the scruff of the neck and run with it, right?
But Garrett, the New Hampshire Wolves is a great story, how they formed, and how did they find out about it? By watching a game in Shannon Airport while they were a stopover flying from Iraq to America. And I always think that, if we could get our games on ESPN or one of the channels here, GAA Go control the media rights probably in America, because if you want it, that's the only way, other than you have to go on GAA Go, pay your $12, pay for your yearly subscription. But Americans love their sport. If an American was on a Sunday morning looking through the news channels and he hit Channel 7 and he sees a game of hurling or a game of football on it, if it's a good game, he's going to stop and watch it. And the sports, I think, are very attractive. And I think they would go, wow, I'm going to finish watching this. And maybe then their kids would see it. And if they Google GAA, Boston GAA, it's all there. There's a website there. There's directions on how to get to these clubs. But I think that if you could get it out there in the media, that would be huge.
I think actually the last episode we did with Bernie, we actually touched base on this. Like, imagine if you had Gaelic football and hurling. What else is on there on a Sunday morning here in the US? We talked about the World Cup final was in Qatar, and it was on in the summer on a Sunday morning, it was winter, but it was on at 10 o'clock in the morning. Now, if that game was on 2 or 3 o'clock, nobody would have been watching it, because it would have been NFL would have been on, and it would have been, but everybody was watching it because there was nothing else on. So almost if you had that market there where, it's not competing with NFL, it's not competing with the
No.
NHL, NBA, or any of the big
Well,
sports.
the main part of our season back, whether it's here or at home, May, June, July, like the All Ireland is in July now. There's not a lot of sports going on here in May, June, and July. Baseball is through the summer. NFL is finished. The hockey's finished. The NBA is finished. And those are three of the major four sports here that are done. And you have 3 free months. So, and like I said earlier, Americans love their sport. So I would love to see it on the national televisions here.
I agree. So just real quick, can you talk about some of the positives in the Northeast Division, sort of compared to the other divisions? I think we're very fortunate here that we are so close together. I know some of the other divisions have definitely a bit of a drive between games. So I guess that would have been one positive. But any other you can think of that be interesting?
Yeah, I think that is a huge positive. But the other positive is, the home that we have in on a Sunday. Canton is a phenomenal facility. We have a clubhouse, dressing rooms. We have access to 4 fields. That is a huge positive for us. And it's a big positive too, because we still have a little bit of immigration. We have a lot of Irish people living in Boston. So, and like you said, we're not spread out. It's not that far. Even if you have to go to Portland, it's 3 hours. But it's not out in the Midwest where they could be traveling for 10, 12 hours. I know Bernie, I think he might even have told the story in his podcast about the kids that travelled for 12 or 14 hours to Tennessee and turned around that night after getting bet and headed back again. So we're very fortunate, and we're fortunate that we have so many clubs. We have ladies, we have camogie, we have men's football, senior hurling, we have the American kids playing it. So there are a lot of positives, and there's a lot of great GAA people here in Boston, and we've a fantastic home in Canton also, and we've great support structures here. We're probably the strongest division in all of North America. I think up until now we had the most amount of clubs, but I think there is one division now that's coming close to us. But
I think John Young would
yes.
Would have an argument with you there.
I think he might have a club more than us right now. All right, in that division. So,
Peter, how would you describe some of the rivalries now in Boston? And do you think they could be like a counterproductive there when you're talking about the investment that goes into bringing players out from Ireland? If that could be used towards homegrown.
Well, I don't think you'll never have a good competition without rivalry, and we definitely have that here. And there is great rivalry in the senior football between the 4 senior clubs. There's great rivalry in the junior A football, the intermediate. There's great rivalry in the hurling. There's only 2 clubs right now, Father Tom's and Galway, and there's a bite there. Every time you go out, you want to win. Even in the junior hurling, you have Offaly, Galway, and Father Tom's, and there is great rivalry in this town. It's just such a pity that we lost so many clubs. We lost 2 or 3 great hurling clubs. In my time we've lost 4: Cork, Limerick, Tipperary, and Wexford, and it is a shame that we don't have more of them, because the rivalries when we had them was phenomenal. It was every Sunday was helter skelter out there. So, but I don't think I think the rivalries are great. There has to be that. There has to be that bite. If you like the lad you're playing beside, you're not going to knock heads with them. Simple as that. You have to have. There has to be a bit of badness there sometimes.
Yeah, that's it.
And look, you have it yourselves with the Wolves. I watched a lot of your games. There's no love lost between you.
Yeah, and even with the football side with Hartford as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we have a phenomenal rivalry there with them. And that's such a new division. That Junior C just started, 2 years ago. And to go back to that point about longevity with clubs, there's another club, Hartford, that stuck it out. They were in the Junior B for how many years and stuck it out.
They're there a long time. That club is, I'd say.
And went down in their first year and won a division championship. So hats off to them for sticking with it. Great bunch of lads. But don't get me wrong, like when we're playing them on a Saturday or a Sunday, there's no love lost.
No, but the rivalry is great as long as you can leave it between the white lines. And go into the bar afterwards and have a beer, because at the end of the day, Monday morning we all have to get up for work, and you might meet the guy in Home Depot that you were yelling at on Saturday evening. You got to forget about it and move on. There's more to life than it too. It's a great pastime, but we have to put things into perspective when it's all over and done with at the end of at 5 o'clock on a Sunday evening. And, you know.
I guess a great add-on to that from your statement there would be, what would be your biggest challenge here in the Northeast?
What's our biggest challenge every year? Without a doubt, is referees. That is our biggest challenge. We don't have a lot of referees right now. We're trying to recruit new ones all the time. But I just heard tonight that Conor and yourself are both going to referee this year, which is great, because we do need all the help we can get. Senior football and senior hurling, it's very hard to get people to referee those games, and I think we're probably at fault for the demise of that ourselves, because we don't give them enough respect when they're out there. It's a tough job. They're the only one on the field, and we just don't give them enough of respect. And we have had too many that have walked away from it over the last 20 years, that they just don't want to. They don't want to take the yelling and the screaming, and we've all been guilty of it at some stage. But I think, we need maybe to follow the rules in rugby. You won't see a player going up giving out to the rugby referee. Only one that can talk to him is the captain. But when it's a Gaelic game, all 26 out there are telling him how to do his job. So,
what do you think is the root problem of that? Because I'll tell you real quick. I think when I came here, 2011, 2012. I'll not name the clubs, just out of respect. But 2012, I refereed one game, and I came off that field saying I will never referee again, ever again, at anywhere. It's just, it really is. It's demoralizing. It's, I'm sure you hear it from, you probably hear it every weekend in Canton on the weekends, like hand you the whistle and say, don't ever ask me to do that again. Because, you're living with these people and working with them. And then you go in with a bar after and having a couple of drinks, and then they're calling you every name under the sun while you're at the bar, where you talk about that, keep it between the white lines, but the same respect isn't put into that referee's position.
Well, I know we had 104 games, I think, either 102 or 104 games in Canton last year. And I was in Canton for probably 96 of those games. I missed one Sunday. No referee cost any club a game last year. But we still yell at them. It doesn't matter if we're beaten by 10 points and he gives a free that we didn't agree on. We're still going to give him grief about it afterwards. And if we watch the Gaelic games at home, and the league semi-final a couple of weeks ago there between Cork and Kilkenny, and Downing, the Cork full-back, got sent off. It was handbag stuff, and that's what we would call it. And I don't know if you watched the game, Conor, but he wouldn't get a yellow card. He wouldn't even get spoken to in Canton, but he got a red card, straight red card. He just took off his helmet and he walked off and he went into the dugout. He didn't go back and tell the referee he was an a-hole. He didn't yell at him. He took his medicine and he walked away. That's it. But here we have to defy the referee. We have to defend ourselves. The people above in the stands have to roar and scream at him. And it's very, very hard to get anybody to go out in the middle of that field and say, I will hold this whistle for the next 60 minutes and take all what's going to come at me. And I think we're, as a whole, as clubs, we have to do better. We have to, if you're a chairman of a club and you hear your manager, you got to say it to him. Listen, you got to calm down. You got to stop roaring at the referee. How many times have we seen a referee to blow the whistle for a free and then change his mind because somebody yelled at him? Never happens. So once he makes his decision, it's made anyway. Maybe if you approach him at half time and say, listen, we feel aggrieved there, a couple of frees didn't go our way, he might listen to you. But he won't listen to you if you're calling him all the names under the sun. And
I guess it's like a ripple effect, because when we're obviously teaching these young American kids that are coming into our game and teaching them respect. Yeah. But then when you're watching the sidelines, not to call people out, but when you actually have high board members sitting on seats giving the abuse to the referee, how do you not, that's learned behavior at that point.
Well, it is. And how do you expect these young American kids to say, well, I'll do the referee's course, I'll referee a game? They're like, I ain't doing that, because they see what's going on out there. And as a whole, we have to do better. We have to, if there's people in the stands, we got to call them out and say, listen, language and your behaviour is not appropriate. There's women and kids around him, but we don't do it. We turn the blind eye on it, and it keeps getting worse. So that's the hardest thing. We could have, between the games that are in Worcester, Portland, there could be games in Providence. There's always 2 or 3 games out of town, and we could have anything up to maybe from 12 to 15 games on a weekend, on a Saturday and a Sunday. That's 15 referees we have to find on a Monday morning. Nobody stops and thinks how, we have a lot of cajoling to do and coaxing and, come on, please, help us out this one time. And they don't want to do it because, how often does somebody walk up to the referee after and says, you did a good job today? Very, very seldom. But if we bring the referee out from Ireland, he gets respect straight away. They know he's going to referee now the way they're refereeing it in Ireland. Black cards straight away, yellow cards, red cards, dissent. They know that they cannot do it. So why can't we give our own referees the same respect? We'd have better games if we did that. So it's look for 15 referees in a Monday. It's very difficult. Very.
So, Peter, am I right in saying the referees course was sent out to all clubs? Is that available for any club member?
Any club member that wants to do it can take the referees course and then do the test online. It's there for everybody. And we have reached out to the clubs. I have asked all the clubs. It went out in an email, and I would really encourage the clubs to think about it. And if you have referees, lads, if Gaz, if you're watching Conor referee a game now, and you hear somebody yapping and roaring at him, now you're going to go, hold on a minute, boys. He's doing that. He's got 2 sets of eyes out there. You're sitting above in the stand with your 4 mates. There's 10 people. There's 5 people watching the game. Somebody's going to see what happened. The other 4 might not. But all of a sudden, all 5 people now seeing what happened. The referee has a split second to make the same decision that those 5 came to a conclusion with. But nobody stops and think of that.
I think it's very eye-opening as a player as well. I'll be the first person to say I'm not a referee, but I think it's very good for the player to understand the other side of the spectrum. So understand what the ref and what they're looking for. For me, I picked up a couple of tips that, okay, maybe, all right, the holding the back, the noting, the black cards, that's always a gray area, when to give a black card, when to give a caution, when to give a straight red. For years, we almost abused to a referee as all right, you get a yellow card and you walk off. No, that's a red card. Yeah. You're off.
Well, I went to Portland maybe 2 years ago. I couldn't get a referee, and I went up to Portland to referee a junior C hurling game between Portland and Providence. And I called the 2 teams into the middle of the park before it started. It's junior C hurling. You can't whistle for everything, because if you do, the game will be just one whistle after another, because they chop and they do stuff that they don't, you have to pull for the blatant bad ones, but you're trying to talk to them through the game saying, you chopped and I'll let you away with it, because if it doesn't advance that team that's doing it, you want to let the play go. But every time I blew the whistle, the American kids would, well, what was that for, coach? And I would tell them, your hand on his back, you were pulling his jersey, and they would say, okay, I'm going to try to do better. But at the end of the game, and I found it very rewarding, a lot of them came up to me afterwards and says, thanks, coach, great job. Now, it was easy to do it. I'm not saying I'm a good referee by any stretch of the imagination. But, I just found them to be very, at junior C hurling level, they're very mannerly. They listen to what you say. They don't argue back with you. And it was easy to do it. But we have to try to get that into our more competitive levels of hurling and football, that people will just say, okay, he's doing the best that he can out there, So.
But I guess the other side of that is, you want to make sure that the referees we are putting out there are up to standard. Would you put a junior referee into a senior game where are they going to really take command of the field?
No.
Because, that there's certain attributes for a referee, especially at the senior and intermediate level, where you need to be able to hold your own out there. If you're lost out there, that game can get very ugly very quick.
It can, yeah. But we pick the referees for the games, and we bring referees out from Ireland, and we will again this year. We were very fortunate last year. Maurice Condren came in 5 weekends, and he would do Saturday and Sunday games, hurling and football. Anthony Coyne came out and spent 2 weekends with us, and James Malloy came out and spent 3. So we were very, and we have some of these guys lined up to come out again this year, but we still need the homegrown referees to go to New Hampshire and to do the junior Bs and the junior Cs. But we will do what we can to get senior hurling, senior football, intermediate football referees out from Ireland as best we can. But we're not always guaranteed it every weekend. Sometimes the homegrown guys have to do it. And, I do admire them for doing it, and I appreciate them doing it. And without referees, we wouldn't have Sundays, lads. It's as simple as that. We can't officiate it. We can't run a game without a referee. So we have to keep that in mind when we go out in that field. And if you're good enough, you'll win. Referee won't beat you.
A good, whenever you're talking to these referees that come out for Ireland, when they're explaining the big difference between, maybe refereeing games in Ireland versus in Canton, senior games, what are they telling you?
Believe it or not, you see, when a referee comes out from Ireland, if you put 2 senior football teams together on the first Sunday in June with a homegrown referee, and put the same 2 teams out the second Sunday with a referee out from Ireland, the respect that they give him is totally different, because they know he's going to blow for everything. There's no shenanigans, there's no back chat, there's no cheek, there's no foul language. They know they're getting a red card if they talk to him in the wrong way. But if the guy the Sunday before gives them a red card, he's the biggest bollocks in town. Plain and simple.
Jesus Christ, Frankie. Our very own Frankie has certainly probably taken his own fair share of abuse. But, he gives it as good back on the field too. He'll call them right out in the spot. But no, you're right. The lads that come out from Ireland, it's almost, am I right by saying a little bit of, buttering them up a little bit?
Well, they know that these guys they're serious referees, and James Malloy refereed our final last year, and he did he's done some league games this year at intercounty level. Like, he's a top-notch referee, as was Anthony Coyne. So, and we also had Alan Kelly from Galway for 1 weekend too. But they're all good referees. They know the rules. The best referees will make mistakes. So I don't want to sound too negative about it. The more referees we have, the better. The more respect we give them, the better they're going to get. You won't make anybody better in any job by yelling or screaming at them. We all know that. You won't make your kids better by yelling or screaming at them. You got to tell them what to do wrong and hope that they try to do better. You got to do the same with the referees. If you talk to them in the right manner afterwards and say, "Gee, you were a bit hard on me there," he might listen. But if you go over telling him he's nothing but a bollocks, he ain't listening. So I wish the 2 of you the best of luck, any boys. Bring the earplugs with you to Canton.
Hey, listen, we'll give it a go, and I think it's good from a player's perspective, because, I've seen a couple of really good referees coming out, and I think the best referees as a player is the ones that talk to you on the field, right? The ones that are very vocal and, will maybe allow advantage to play, and, they'll stop playing, they'll talk, and it's like, listen, because we're all human. We all have that initial reaction. It's a contact sport, the blood's flowing. We have that initial reaction. What was that for? But when you have a referee come over and it's like, listen, this is what I saw. I saw the hand on the back. I seen the jersey pulled. Fair enough. All right. What am I going to say to that? And that's, once that initial kind of like blood rush goes down, then, all right, okay. I see what you're talking about. So I think if we can kind of take that, into it and, talk, especially at some of the lower levels with, in our division with a lot of American-born players that are new to the game, I think it'll help them with their development as well. And not call everything, especially, you obviously played you did the refereeing up in Portland, and try not to call the silly stuff, but let it flow, but have that conversation aside. So I think that's a good learning curve for any new referee.
Yes. Talk to them, tell them what they're doing wrong, but at junior C level, you have to be very careful, or it'll be a whistle-happy afternoon. Conor, you played a good bit of junior C hurling, and it's different in the junior C football, guys. It's not quite as it's much different in the hurling. Because when you put out the hurl for the ball, stick cannot come down across it. It's a chop, and they do it all the time. So, but that's it. That's all I'd like to say about the referees. I do appreciate the people that do it, and I would like to get some new ones. And we'll do the best that we can as a board to monitor the sidelines and to stop people, to try to explain to people that roaring and yelling, and we're not going to encourage people to do the courses if we don't treat them with respect.
Yeah, but yeah, I think the course is a great thing to do. Just quiz your own knowledge there. I definitely picked up a few things that I wouldn't have even known, and I've been playing GAA obviously all my life.
Well, there's so many new rules now, lads. I don't think there's too many people in the stands anymore that know them. Hurling and football, they're both so different. There's you can get a free in hurling now if you're 30 metres out. If there's a goal chance on and you pull down, the cornerback comes up and pulls down the full 40s one-on-one with the goalie. Whoever thought that would come into it, So black cards in football, 10 minutes, sin bin in the ladies. There's a lot of new rules that have come in over the last 20 years to speed up the game and to make it better. And but it is hard to keep up with them, and I think probably everyone should go on and do it and have a look and see. Maybe even if players did it just out of curiosity, to see how many rules that know. They might not be as knowledgeable as they think.
Yeah. Especially that advanced mark.
Yeah, correct.
That was one of the ones that got me. It's just But I mean, you're talking about speeding up the game. In my opinion, I think it slows it down. But especially in the full forward line, I love the mark from the kick out where in between the midfielders and somebody goes up and catches it clean. But the inside forward that catches it.
I agree with you, Gareth. I think you get a guy with a good pair of hands. He comes out and catches the ball. Now he's a free pop of the post. If he's that good, let him take on the cornerback and kick it over. It's not given the back has no chance. It's so hard not to foul him going out for that ball. If the guy is bigger and stronger, he's going to catch it. At least if the guy is left, he could block him, he could take it off him, he could dispossess him. But he's no chance. It's given no chance to the backs.
Especially in when you go down the divisions. Senior football, you're going to have crafty cornerbacks. But, when you get into the B and C division, it's very easy to put a 6'5" lad up there and just hoof it into him and let him catch a mark. It almost takes the skill out of it. It takes that, it takes the speed out of the game. But, we could be here all day talking about that rule. But, that's one thing I would question and maybe move in the.
Let's think of the inside forwards now here. I don't have any problem with the mark at all. No, just putting that out there. So, Peter, can you touch a bit about the rules for teams now with home? There's a lot of them there between home base, away base,
yes,
homegrown. With the different divisions and all that.
Well, there has to be 2 homegrown players on all teams across the board right now. Hurling, football, at the higher levels, and obviously at the lower levels, then the junior C is 10 homegrown players. The sanction, the homegrown for the senior football, any of the senior intermediate football, you can only get an inter-county transfer by April 30th. And that makes you a home-based player. Obviously, an inter-county transfer, you're not allowed to go back and play for your own club within that year. After March 30th, after March 30th, all players are on a sanction that come out to the senior football clubs, intermediate clubs, or the junior A. In hurling, you are allowed to get a sanction you can get a home-based sanction player before April 30th. You can do the same in the ladies' football, I believe. So after April 30th, all players are away base in senior hurling, junior hurling, or the ladies. So we have in hurling we have 6 home base, 2 are homegrown, and 7 away at senior level. At junior level, we have 2 Americans. You can have 10 homegrown you have to have 10 home base on the field and 3 away base. In the senior football, I believe it's 7 home base, 2 have to be American born at senior level, and then 6 are summer players, sanctioned players. That is at the senior level. Intermediate level, it's 8 and 5. 2 of them have to be homegrown. Junior A is 10 and 3, 2 have to be homegrown. And junior B, it's believe it's 10 and 3 as well, 2 homegrown, and then Junior C is has to be all homegrown. So, will you?
Yeah, and that's a tough one too for our division because it's only 3 Irish
Yes.
lads on the field at one
Yeah.
time. And that's where it forces you to get more American kids in. But is there a deadline for American kids when they can sign? Can they sign at any time?
Only if they're a first time. The first time they sign, they're allowed to sign up until the 1st of August. But if they have registered previously with a club, they have to be in the registration before the home-based deadline of either March 30th for senior football or for any day for the senior intermediate football and for the hurling April 30th if they want to play. So if they were transferred from a club, they'd have to do the same as all the Irish guys. If they were brand new to it, it's 1st of August. If they had never signed and never played here before, 1st of August.
Perfect. So that's good for any new lads that maybe are coming in and thinking about it. They can come in, try it out, and hope then they stay, right?
But once that
So
American kid is signed up after his first year, the same rules applies across the board whether you're American born or Irish born. So it gets very complicated here because we're constantly changing those rules as we have more American born players, less Irish born players, more Irish. There's always motions to Congress to change it, and so it's constantly evolving. It would be nice if we could keep it the same, but if you got a huge flux of Irish players out here with immigration over the next 5 years, the amount of resident players would increase and the amount of sanctioned players would decrease, which would be better for us because it would be easier to run it if we had more players that were capable of playing at senior level living in the town.
So what you're saying is, even though Conor's got that lovely Limerick accent, even though he's born here in the US, he's still Irish, right?
Correct. Because Conor might have been born here, but he came up through the youth system in Ireland. Correct, Conor? He didn't come up through the youth program here in America. If you're born in Ireland, if you're born here and go home, you're still considered an Irish player. It all depends on what youth system you came up through.
Now, what if you were, let's just say you born here, right? And you never played youth at home, but you moved home for a few years and you come back out here at like 19, 20, but you never signed for a Gaelic football
American
club.
born player. Yeah.
Okay.
If you have never played, I think up to under 18 at home, you can sign as an American born.
Yeah.
We've had some cases in that where kids have, been born here, moved home, never really played, never joined a club, came back here and wanted to sign. They've been signed as an American born player. It's kind of a grey area. Yeah. Should they be signed as possibly? Well, they haven't come up through the youth program in Ireland or in America, so they were born here, so it's kind of a grey area.
Yeah, it's funny how much you see that too around foreign GA clubs. That someone might have never played GA back home, but they'll pick it up, over in God knows where. So it's it's great. It's great when you move somewhere and you're just looking to make a few friends, and you can look up on Google, whatever you can, social media, find.
Without a doubt,
that's the goal, really, isn't it? Just to get a club in as many cities as possible.
And they'll help you get an apartment. They'll help you get work. They'll help you out especially if you get right involved in a club, yourselves, you're going to look after them. So it is a great way to start a life for yourself in a different city. I have a niece now moving to Vancouver, definitely. And I told her, the minute you get off that plane, find a club, find who's playing out there. There's lots of them. Get involved. You'll have a bunch of friends that first night you go down training.
So just to get onto GA going forward, where do you see your own involvement in the GA for the short and the long term? Do you see yourself in any future roles?
I'm like I said, it's my last year as the divisional chairman. I've enjoyed it very much. It was a great experience. Would I, I don't know, maybe take a year out and travel a little bit more, because when you're chairman of the divisional board, you're May, June, July and August, the summer months, Saturdays and Sundays are swallowed up by it. So it's a huge commitment and you have to be there. So I know it'll be nice being able to say to the wife, where are we going? Or, I'm not committed to the cantons. Would I like to go on the North American County Board down the line? I would, with the right people. It would have to be with the right people. I've always enjoyed being an administrator, and if I had something to offer, it's probably what I'd like to do.
Would you have any plans or goals in mind if you did get involved in the USGA County Board?
It's not something I've really thought about yet. Because it's I've been so involved here. When you're running for those positions, if you have goals ahead, that's something then that you'd sit down and think about, but it's not something that I have really thought about yet.
Yeah. I presume you've heard about the All-Star team?
The junior
Peter?
footballers? Yes, I did. And
Yeah.
I think I think it's fantastic that we possibly have hopefully in 2024 could have a junior team going back from America to represent North American GAA. And I know if there is a game in Croke Park, I will definitely be in the stands because I think it'll be a very historical moment. And we have some fantastic American-born players. We have some incredible players here in Boston, and there are some great players all over the United States. So I think that'd be a very competitive team, and I think they'd give it a great shot. And the first year will be very interesting because I think they'd be very underestimated going over there. The Boston Fela team last year won the under 15, I think, D level at the Fela, which was a fantastic achievement. All American born kids to go over to Ireland and to bring a trophy back out of it. And the girls weren't too far away. So there is great kids coming through. There's great kids coming through in Boston, and I'm sure it's the same in some of the other divisions, Philly, Chicago, and San Francisco and stuff. So,
do you think we could see more All-Star teams in the future now? Do you think you could almost see a USGA team in the Tailteann Cup
yes.
or in one of the lower down Ireland
I
competitions?
do. I think
maybe?
down the road, eventually, anything is possible. When I came out here 34 years ago, there was, I think, only in the 90s there was two American kids played. One for Mayo, I think Clark was his name, and there was a Fleming for Cork, and they were two very good athletes and very good footballers. But then Donny Conneely's kids came along and the ISYL, and we've seen massive improvement over the last 10 years. And if it improves as much in the next 10 years as it has in the last 10, we're going to be in a great place in Boston and in North America. And I think there's 160 clubs in North America now. I think when I came out here, there might have been 50 clubs. That's huge number. There was only 4 places where San Francisco, Boston, Chicago, and Philadelphia. New York is different, but in North America there was 4 cities. How many cities are there now? So it's if it keeps growing the way it's growing, without a doubt, Connor, I think Tailteann Cup, Nicky Rackard and hurling, or maybe Christy Ring down the line, but anything is possible. It all depends on the players and the people like us that are going to keep driving them forward and keep working with them.
Well,
Yeah,
even look
that's
at the
it.
standard.
Sometimes you just need someone to take the bull by the horns, don't you? That's kind of what we're trying to, just to bring a bit more transparency to what's going on behind the scenes. Hoping that more people will more exposure will lead to more people involved, and
you could get it on
more people.
If we could get it on the telly, that's when you'd get the exposure. That's when people would start going.
Yeah.
I wasn't good enough
100%.
for college basketball, but I'm good enough to play Gaelic football. And
you can make a great midfielder.
And it's a great, the GAA is a wonderful social outlet. It's a great social setting. We meet great people along the way. I always say to people that the journey has been brilliant the last 34 years in Boston with the people that we've met, and from all different parts of Ireland. And you look at us here tonight, Limerick, Mana. I don't know if you're down or MA, because you told me you were wearing both jerseys, guys. But
just if you ask me, I'm from down. If you ask me 2 brothers and me ma and dad, they'll tell you Armagh.
So it's a great. The journey is great, lads, and I hope these American kids get the same kick out of it that I did, and I'm sure you're getting the same kick out of it too.
So what would you see as the biggest challenges now facing Gaelic football in the coming years?
I think the biggest challenge that we're facing is a lack of immigration, because we're going to have to get the American kids into administrative roles if immigration doesn't pick up. Because in the last 30 years, there hasn't been, when I came out here 34 years ago, there was 2 planefuls coming every week. It was incredible through the 80s and early 90s. It probably stopped in 91 or 92. then there was a huge gap. And a lot of those people that came in those years ended up going back. So we have had, through B1 visas and stuff, we have had a small bit of immigration, but how many players does each club get? So I think that's going to be the biggest challenge, is keeping to sustain the clubs. We're going to have to make sure we have people that are going to do the work at an administrative level, and that's probably, the American kids will have to step into those roles just like we did when we weren't able to play anymore. So that's the biggest challenge I see. I'd love to see immigration open up, and if it did, this thing would go. It would just explode again, like it did in the 80s, 90s.
I guess a challenge there is an opportunity too, because now clubs are almost being forced to get out and promote the sport, and get more involved. And I feel like, when you're personally more involved in the club, you care more about the club. You actually want to see it grow. So when you're in them administrative roles and in the back, you feel more invested in the club. So you're willing to have those conversations, when you're at the gym or where you're at the bar, and it's like, geez, you ever heard of Gaelic football? You should come down and try it out. So I feel like we can almost be doing a better job with that as a whole. I know some of the clubs are doing a great job with that. But we are forced to, that is, yes, it's a challenge, but it's an opportunity now to get new people, to get, everybody involved, because it's a great sport. And once you're in it, the community behind it, like, you should look at Canton there on a finals weekend on a Sunday, the amount of people out there watching the games, it's phenomenal. Where do you see that?
It is. And it is, there's no doubt about it. And the quality of the games are top class here. And, it's wonderful, and long may it continue. So, what else can we say about it? The more the merrier. The more people we can get involved, the better. So, and I think it's very important now that we get more Americans involved in our committees. They're coming through the youth. Now we got to get them involved, whether it's refereeing, managers, chairman. Ye have it in your club. Portland have it. Those are all American clubs, Providence and, Hartford. There's not a lot of Irish in it, and they have some great American administrators. And it's all over the US.
So over the years, there's been a couple of pretty big names coming out in the Gaelic football community. Have we any spoilers for the upcoming season?
No, I have no spoilers. I haven't heard of any rumblings of any top-notch inter-county players coming. So I'd say,
but I'm sure there
will be. I'd say probably in another 3-4 weeks. All the clubs, all the counties right now, the championship hasn't started. So as you see teams getting knocked out in the next 3 or 4 weeks or 5 weeks, you're going to start to hear who's on the move. But it's an interesting part of it for as a spectator and as the chairman. I like to see the high profile players. It's nice to see 1 or 2 or 3. There was a great bunch of them here last year between all the senior clubs. They had some phenomenal players, and we have seen some incredible players play here in Boston. Peter Canavan and Joe McNally, Sean O'Dupuy, Declan Meehan, Diarmuid Conley. Look at the talent we've seen here in football and hurling the last. It's been incredible, So hopefully we'll see some new upcoming talent again this year. So
I'm hopeful too. And just to go back on that, that junior team that does go over and plays in the All Ireland. Remember, some of these American kids are playing senior football with the likes of Connolly and them players and holding their own. That's how good some of these American kids are. And, if they don't have the respect for these boys coming over, they're going to get some shock, because these boys are great footballers.
Well, being involved in a hurling club, some of the players that come out from Ireland, they look at the American kids playing. And I was down in last year down in the park. So one of the Irish kids asked, he says, what a young American kid came down training one night. He's only 15 years of age, and he hadn't been down all summer. His parents are from Galway, and he goes home every summer for 4 or 5 weeks. But he was after coming back from Ireland, so he kind of has a mix of an Irish American accent. But one of the guys, when he saw him doing the drill, he says, "What county is that kid from?" And we said, "He's from Watertown or Waltham." He says, "No way." He says, "He couldn't be American." I says, "He's an American kid." He says, "He can't be an American kid at that age, hurling like that.
That's
Do you
brilliant. It's great. It's great to see, and long may it continue. Lads like that and stories like that. Because there is an opportunity, and especially here in the Northeast, the Irish American community. I mean, there's more. What do they say? There's more Irish here in the US than there is at home.
Yeah.
With the generations of Irish people that's been here. So, what better way to celebrate than a sport like Gaelic football and hurling, where lads and girls and kids can all go in, and experience it as well. But Peter, I think that's a good time to kind of wrap it up. We appreciate your time. We wish you the best of luck in the upcoming season. I know it's going to be another great year. Last year, it was phenomenal to be involved with it, and I'm sure another successful year is ahead.
All right, boys. Thank you both very much for the invite. It's always good to spread it's always nice to spread the good news about Boston GAA, and we should all be very proud of it. And I wish you both the best of luck on the field and with your whistle this year, boys.
All right. So before we wrap up, I just want to thank Peter for coming on. Thank anyone who's listening out there. If you like this episode, just leave us a like, follow, subscribe, whatever you can do. Leave us a comment, tell us what you think, and we'll see you next time.
All right, boys. Peter. Thanks for the invite. Keep up the good work.
Anytime. See you
See you
soon.
in Canton.